Hello everyone, I'm Jacob Shin, Michigan Korean Times youth reporter. Today we invite Michigan State Senator Hoon-Yung Hopgood in our studio. He was elected to the Michigan State Representatives in 2002, representing the 6th District. After serving 3 terms in the House of Representatives, he was elected to the Michigan State Senate in 2010, and currently he is serving the 2nd term. Let's meet Senator Hopgood. Hello, Senator Hopgood. Thank you for coming to the studio today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
First of all, can you tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name's Hoon-Yung Hopgood. I'm a state senator. I just started my 2nd term in the Michigan Senate, and I'm from Taylor. I represent Senate District 6, which is 10 communities in the Downriver, Western Wayne area. And before that, of course, I was a state representative, so I've been involved in state level politics for a while now, and I really enjoy it. I'm married to Sunhwa, my wife, and she actually grew up in Korea, and we have 2 wonderful little girls who are quickly becoming bigger every day.
You told us that you were a Michigan House representative before, and now you're a state senator. Can you tell us about the differences for the young viewers?
Sure. You know, the Michigan House and the Michigan Senate are very similar in many ways. They're both bodies of the Michigan legislature, of the legislative branch of Michigan government, but they are different in ways. So the House of Representatives, they are elected on a 2-year term. So every 2 years you would run for re-election, and Michigan law limits them to a total of 3 terms. There's 110 of them, so there's many more than state senators. State senators, there's only 38, and the state senator is elected for a period of 4 years. So you don't have to run every other year. You actually have a longer term, and you can be elected twice to the state senate. The state senate districts tend to be bigger. They tend to be close to 3 to 1 in terms of the size of the population within the district. So those are some of the basic differences between the Senate and the House.
As a lawmaker in Michigan, how in Michigan does a bill become a law?
So first you have to start off with an idea, and this is something that I enjoy telling to people, because ideas can come from anywhere, and I get a chance to go and talk to kids, high school kids and kids in elementary school. I read to 3rd graders a lot during March, and so I ask them, do you have an idea? Do you have an idea for a law? And I get lots of interaction from that, and it's great. But ideas can come from anywhere, and so you first start off with an idea, and then you would have a legislator, someone like myself, a senator or a representative, ask for a bill draft, ask for that idea to be drafted into a bill. And that bill would then be introduced in either the Senate or the House, and the bill would then be referred to committee. Once the bill is referred to committee, the chair of that committee can choose to take that bill up for consideration. If they do, and if it has the support of the committee members, it goes to the full chamber. So in the House, it would go to the floor of the House. The Senate, it would go to the floor of the Senate. It would have to get the support of the majority of members in either the House or the Senate, and once it passes through one of the chambers, it goes to the other chamber and starts the process all over again. Once it has gone through both the House and the Senate in the exact same form, word for word, dot for dot, then it's presented to the governor, and the governor has the ability to sign it or veto it. And so if it signs, it becomes a law. Now that's sort of the textbook version of how a bill becomes a law, but there's a lot of activity, a lot of debate, and a lot of attempts to try to build consensus, try to build support for an idea. So sometimes ideas and bills can take years and years to actually become law. And a great example of that is the smoke-free workplace law. So that probably took 8 or 10 years to become law, to where now restaurants and bars and workplaces are required to be smoke-free in Michigan. That took a long time. And then there are other laws that actually take a very short period of time to become law. So they go from the idea to law in a very short period of time.
Okay. You served the Education Committee in the Michigan State Senate from 2011 to 2014. Let's talk about a recent education bill. I found this news article. The legislature approved the $13.9 billion school aid budget last June, giving K-12 public schools Michigan increase from $70 to $140 per pupil. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. One of my responsibilities in the Senate is also to serve on the Appropriations Committee, and that's the committee that spends the money. Now, I go back to those classrooms and I ask, how big is the state budget? And lots of times they say $1 million or $10 million. We actually have a $54 billion state budget, 54 billion with a B. And one of the biggest and most important pieces of our state budget is support for our education, for our schools. As you mentioned, $13.9 billion is spread out over all the school districts in the state of Michigan. There's hundreds of school districts, and most cities and communities have a school district of their own. And then that money is allocated mostly on a per pupil basis. So when you hear there's a range of an increase, $70 to $140, some of the lower some of the school districts that have traditionally received the lower amounts will receive actually a bigger increase. So they will receive the $140 amount, and then some of the school districts that have traditionally received the more of an increase, or in the past, greater per pupil funding level, will actually receive the $70. Will receive the lower increase, and the purpose for that is called the 2x formula, and the idea behind that is to try to reduce the disparity between what the highest funded school districts receive and the lowest funded school districts. So over time, if you continue to do that, that will reduce that disparity, and students will not have as great of a difference in terms of how much money is supporting their local school district. So that's where you get the difference between 70 and 140. The challenge that can present is that if you're in one of those better funded school districts, your costs don't necessarily go down. You continue to have costs and challenges like you do. So if you don't get some of the increases that some of the other school districts are getting, it can actually be a very serious challenge. And there was an article very recently in the newspaper saying that layoffs and program cuts to education programs have actually happened across the board. So it's not just the so-called poor school districts, or the school districts that receive the lowest funding levels, but it's actually across the board that some of this financial stress is being experienced all over Michigan, and that's just one of I guess the challenges of trying to figure out how to spend money in the state of Michigan, and I don't know that we're doing it very well based on those results.
My parents believe that education is really a key to a better life. What are the problems and the solutions for the education system in Michigan?
So, I would certainly agree with that sentiment, the idea that education really can take you places in life. And as a parent, that's what I believe, and that's what I'm going to be telling my children. And as a kid myself, growing up in Michigan, that's what I learned in my family. So both my parents were actually educators. So I grew up with that that mentality or that value of take advantage of the time that you have in education, because it's going to really pay off for you later. Now, I just mentioned some of the challenges. I mean, lots of it is tied to money. Michigan's economy has been recovering, so we've actually seen some stability within the economy, and that's great. We're not seeing as strong of an economy as we would all like, but it's certainly much better than 5 or 6 years ago when things were really tough. But what's happened is that we've actually diverted hundreds of millions of dollars away from our education system each and every year. And so while the stability to the state budget has come back a little bit, we're actually not spending as much as we could be spending on our education, on our schools. And so we're seeing that directly related to, as I mentioned before, program cuts and teacher layoffs. So that is a really very serious challenge that we're facing. Now, there's certainly some solutions, certainly some things that are going on positively in terms of what state government is doing. Governor Snyder has focused on early childhood education, and I think that is something that I have very strongly supported in the past and been a champion of. So that's great to see, and he's actually put some dollars behind that, some dedicated specific funding behind that, and those were things that I was happy to support. Just this past spring, there was a group of us that we worked on trying to support third grade reading achievement. So there's a lot of information, a lot of studies that say that it's really important to do our best as an education system, as a state, to try to ensure that as many students as possible are able to read well by the end of third grade. And that really puts them on the best path possible to becoming a good student later on in life. And by the end of the third grade, if you're experiencing significant difficulties with reading, that will tend to lead to difficulties with education later on. And so, a common phrase that people say is that up until the end of the third grade, you're learning to read, and then after that, you're reading to learn. And so that's how you learn later on. And so a lot of emphasis has been put on to those early years, to not only preschool, but going on through kindergarten through the third grade, to try to support schools and to support teachers and to support parents in helping their young children learn how to read. And so that is, again, another initiative that the governor has focused on, that I was very happy to support and help find some positive solutions too.
My dad is a South Korean immigrant, and he came to be a U.S. citizen a long time ago. And he told me that the competition in our school isn't fulfilling, and how you have to compete with the students all over the world. And he says how Korean students, they only sleep sometimes only about like 4 to 5 hours to get into a good college. And President Obama praises South Korea's education several times in his public speeches. Have you ever had a chance to compare with the education systems between South Korea and America?
I have in a limited way. I've certainly been over to Korea, several times in the last 8 or 10 years, and I've even been able to speak to some students in South Korea, and that was just a wonderful experience. I've heard a lot. I've talked to some people about South Korean education, and I know that there's a lot of competition. The structure of the systems are a little bit different. I think that in the U.S. or even in Michigan, there may be broader based opportunities, meaning that maybe there's more universities, maybe there's a better chance of getting into some of the universities. But on the other hand, some of our best universities are tough to get into. There is a lot of competition. At the University of Michigan, there's good competition at many of other schools in the state of Michigan, and the best schools in the country. There's very serious competition. So I think that there is a lot to praise about the South Korean education, about the drive of students and parents to reach that achievement in education. And I always think that there's a balance to that as well. I think that if you're a young person and you're sleeping 4 hours a night, that's probably not enough sleep, quite frankly. I mean, young people are still developing, their brains are still developing, and you need that sleep to actually learn and retain some of the stuff that you're being taught and being instructed in. So studying and spending time on task and focusing on your education is extremely important. I do think that there is a balance to it. And, quite frankly, if you're in a system that has a handful of really good schools and everyone's trying to get into those schools, that's going to help create some of that competition. So those universities in Korea are world-class universities. There's no doubt about it. But you are seeing, obviously, lots of really smart young people in South Korea go to those schools, but also looking abroad and looking to the U.S. and other countries to get a really good education experience as well.
Looks like that there aren't many Korean American parents that encourage their children to become a politician as a career. They want their children to become doctors, lawyers, engineers, etc. Do you have any advice for Korean American youth that would like to be politicians?
I think that politics and being a politician isn't the traditional path for lots of Korean Americans. I think that there's many reasons for that, but I think that it's a great profession. I think that it's a wonderful place where it really requires some passion. So young people that are passionate about the world around them and trying to make things better, I really encourage to try to look at politics as a field that they can get involved in. And quite frankly, the best advice that I can give to young people is follow their passion. And if they're interested in politics, it's important to pick up a newspaper, to follow what's going on in their communities, what's going on in their state, the country, and the world, and really kind of let all that sink in, but also think about what you care about and what you're passionate about as a person, as an individual, and sometimes that takes time. And so just to keep on pursuing your interests and your passions, and then finding out how that fits into the political system. And I think that it's generally it's very good advice, is to follow the things that make you click, that make you get up and be energetic in life.
Lastly, do you have any final comments for the audience?
Like I said, I think that politics is a wonderful profession. I think that it's really important to think about what you can do to help your community. I think that's first and foremost. I think that it is, in many respects, public service. So it's not something that is necessarily something that you look at as just what you can get out of it or how it can benefit you. I think that is a mindset that can get some people into trouble, quite frankly. And you see too much of that in politics, and it's not as widespread as you might seem, but it does happen. And so the mindset of what can I do to help my community. Maybe it's the young people in my school. Maybe it's fellow Korean Americans. But those are things that should be what drive you. Is how can you make the world a better place?
Okay. Thank you for your time. We'll try to invite you next time if that's possible. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. I enjoyed being on.
Senator Hopgood is holding monthly coffee hour to discuss about state and local issues. If you want to meet and talk about the issues, please attend the event. For more information, contact Senator Hopgood's office by calling 517-373-7800 or by emailing to sendhopgood@senate.mi.gov or visiting his Facebook page. Thank you for watching. I'm Jacob Shin, Michigan Korean Times youth reporter.